serving in the military. It is the second nationwide injunction against the policy in the past 2 weeks. In the day's other headlines, a major restructuring at the Department of Health and Human Services will slash its workforce by almost 25%. The agency says it will lay off 10,000 employees on top of another 10,000 leaving voluntarily through buyouts or early retirement. The vast majority of the job cuts will come from the Food and Drug Administration, the Centers for Disease Control, and the National Institutes of Health. The plan will also shut down entire agencies, including one that oversees the National Suicide Prevention Hotline. HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. said a painful period lies ahead, but called reductions necessary.
We're going to eliminate an entire alphabet soup of departments and agencies while preserving their core functions. We're going to consolidate all of these departments and make them accountable to you, the American taxpayer, and the American patient.
Kennedy said some folded agencies would be merged into a new organization called the Administration for a Healthy America. HHS says the changes would save taxpayers $1.8 billion a year. The White House has withdrawn New York Congresswoman Elise Stefanik's nomination to be ambassador to the United Nations, citing concerns about the slim margin Republicans have in the House of Representatives. Stefanik was seen as one of President Trump's least controversial picks, and her nomination even advanced out of committee before it stalled for months. Stefanik is now the fourth Trump administration nominee to have his or her name pulled. Attorney General Pam Bondi indicated there is unlikely to be a criminal investigation into the sharing of military operational details by top Trump officials on a commercial messaging app. Bondi said the information shared over Signal was not classified.
First, it was sensitive information not classified and inadvertently released. And what we should be talking about is it was a very successful mission. Our world is now safer because of that mission. We're not going to comment any further on that.
Meantime, late today, a federal judge ordered the Trump administration to preserve all Signal messages that discussed attack plans in Yemen. Attorney General Bondi today also ordered an investigation into admission policies at 4 universities in California. Bondi is directing a probe into whether Stanford, UCLA, UC Irvine, and UC Berkeley are complying with the Supreme Court decision that prohibits schools from using DEI in selecting students for admission. The investigation will be led by the Civil Rights Division of the Department of Justice. President Trump signed an executive order today targeting the Smithsonian. He directed Vice President J.D. Vance to lead an effort to remove what the White House deems revisionist history from the institution's museums, education, and research centers, as well as the National Zoo. President Trump is targeting another prominent law firm. Trump signed an executive order today stripping WilmerHale of its security clearances and restricting its access to federal buildings. The order singles out the firm's ties to Robert Mueller, the special counsel who investigated Russia's ties to Trump's first presidential campaign. The firm says the order is unlawful. In ICE custody, we're back in federal court today fighting for her release. Rumasa Öztürk was taken by masked plainclothes federal immigration agents Tuesday near her home in a Boston suburb. She's since been moved to an ICE detention center in Louisiana. The Department of Homeland Security says she was detained for supporting Hamas. Friends and colleagues of the international student say her only known activism was co-authoring an op-ed asking Tufts to divest from Israel. Representatives from nearly 30 countries plus NATO and the EU gathered a so-called coalition of the willing to support Ukraine today. France pledged a $2 billion defense package, but there was little agreement at the Paris meeting on whether to deploy European troops inside Ukraine. Without consensus, the two countries leading the charge, France and the UK, signaled they'd be prepared to go it alone.
Aujourd'hui, ces forces de réassurance.
Today, these reassurance forces are a French-British proposition. It's desired by Ukraine, and it's also been agreed by several member states that have signaled their desire to join in. There's no unanimity on it today. That's known. But we don't need unanimity to do this.
Turkish authorities deported a BBC reporter today as part of a crackdown on the press and anti-government demonstrations. Authorities pushed back more protesters with water cannons overnight. Almost 1,900 people have been detained by police since the demonstrations began last week. The protests, sparked by the jailing of one of President Erdogan's main political rivals, have been the largest in over a decade. In Lithuania, rescuers searched for 4 U.S. soldiers who went missing 2 days ago during a training exercise. The Army says the soldiers' armored vehicle was found submerged in a body of water at a military training ground near the Belarus border. Both U.S. and Lithuanian soldiers are combing the dense wetlands where the vehicle was found. NATO had to clarify confusion caused by comments yesterday from Secretary General Mark Rutte after he suggested the soldiers had died. Still to come on the NewsHour, we speak with one of the 2 Democrats the president fired